this.
Right before you start the Harlle end of arc boss fight, which takes place in Gotham Hospital. Up until this moment, you've been pursuing Harlle, you've been trying to figure out what she's up to. But of course, this is Harlle Quinn, and she's up to no good in Gotham. And living your best life in this case means doing murderous and violent things. Right before the boss fight starts, you've finally figured out which part of the hospital she's in, and you're about to confront Harlle about everything that she's been up to.
Well, that's how you're controlling them. Give it.
Nuh-uh. My toy.
Your game is over, Harlle.
As if. This has been in the works since Blackgate. Welcome to my party!
Pretty boring party. Especially for you.
That's because I haven't lit a candle! Now, let's play Nightbot. That's the ticket.
You ready?
Don't be shy. I wanna play. Missed me. Incoming! Why don't you come a bit closer? Ouch! You and pulling back.
Hello? Hello? Alô, 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 alô.
I almost forgot about my special surprise.
Harlle!
Mama's got some stuff to do. You make sure to keep him here. Bye.
Gameplay do Gotham Knight da Harlle Quinn.
Get ready to eat the floor! Incoming! Did you miss me? This is it!
Try this.
É o golpe de estranho que usa no turno. Os especiais, quem não gostou muito de jogar com a Asa não gostou dos golpes da Asa Noturna, do jeito que ele joga.
Here we go!
Os especiais que ele adquire aqui,
I'm gonna show you some moves.
ele clica por todos os especiais, clica um botão e você escolhe o especial.
Not fast enough. Are we having fun?
Estou ouvindo o áudio aqui duplo, pra ver se tá ficando bom a live, que é live de vídeo. Finalizando ali. E hoje vai ter mais um vídeo ao meio-dia, são 1h da tarde, do Gotham Knight, lá de São Paulo. Mas não tá sendo áudio mesmo, ainda bem.
Party foul!
Need to do this.
Estava sendo controlado pela Arlequina.
What the hell did I do?
You need to get out of here. Fast!
Hey, where you going? You can't leave yet. You were having fun.
Party's over, Harles.
Party's not over until I say
O
it.
Gotham Knight foi adiado para dia 21 de
For more from our Gotham Knights IGN first, check out the
YouTube.
first 16 minutes of gameplay, or how the developers built their Gotham City on 400 years of history. IGN first for August is Gotham Knights, and we're kicking it off with the first minutes of gameplay. This section follows the prologue, which WB Montreal is still keeping
Acabou o
secret
vídeo do
and will
Asa
be the
Noturna.
first time you
Agora
take
vamos
control
ver
of a
esse
character.
gameplay de novo
After
da
picking
Bastião.
which knight you want to play as, this section serves to tutorialise some of the game's
Asa
basic
Noturna foi lançado
traversal and
semana
combat
passada, mas não tinha
mechanics,
gravado.
as well as introduce you to the
Semana
wider
passada.
mystery taking place in Gotham following the death of Batman. Enjoy!
You want to break into the GCPD headquarters for a what if? Be my guest.
I decrypted the case Batman sent with his message. We should focus on that.
I looked it over, but did I get everything? It doesn't look complete. He says this has implications that could shake Gotham to its core.
Ominous, but not exactly helpful. I saw a few places we should poke around.
Será que vai ser sempre assim as escolhas
also
dos
mentioned a
personagens
Dr.
do jeito em
Langstrom.
roda?
Anyone know him?
He's a zoologist at Gotham University. Not sure what his connection is, though.
Let's divide up the work. We can meet at the Belfry when we're done. Get it up and running.
Who gets to talk to Langstrom?
Espero que o review seja uma gameplay. vai sair a meio-dia o review do Gotham.
Arrived at Gotham U. What do we know so far about this professor?
Kirk Langstrom. Judging by the half-finished file with the code black, Batman was digging into him hardcore.
Then I'll pick up where Batman left off.
Ele trava quando bota muda aqui assim. Fica com duas telas. Ainda bem que não apareceu assim.
So we got a positive ID on this faculty dude, Kirk
Não
Langstrom.
travou não.
Right. I'll call it in on the way to the morgue.
Vamos ver um negócio aqui.
Damn it. Langstrom's dead. Do we know where his office is?
Seriously? Crap. Well, our notes had his office on the 3rd floor of Molson Hall.
Got it.
Olha os ganchos que ainda vai ter com a Batgirl. Muita gente gostou da Batgirl e do Robin. Eu também gostei. O Capuz Vermelho eu gostei
Third
mesmo
floor
não, dos poderes
balconies
dele.
open.
E do Asa Noturna eu gostei
Don't mind if
mesmo
I
que ele
do.
tenha deslize e uns golpes meio
Body
diferentes.
cam recording.
Que acabamos de ver.
Here's his office. Hardly any police work here. Langstrom must have been killed somewhere else. Those marks look fresh.
You find anything, Batgirl? So far, nothing here.
Our professor is very dead. I'll let you know when I find the crime scene.
Good. Well, not good exactly, but
O
at least a lead.
detetive da Batgirl.
The real challenge will be getting out of here without the cops finding me.
Good luck.
That's a lot of damage. This must be where Langstrom died. The cops cleared out of here way too fast. Langstrom must have been working when he was attacked. Significant blood loss here. Evidence of a struggle, then the attacker pinned him to the wall. They were merciless. Langstrom was dying, but he tried to get to that cabinet instead of the door. What was so important? A hidden door. What secrets were you keeping, Dr. Langstrom? A thermostat would be a clever place to hide a keypad. A microwave. I hope Langstrom wasn't combining burritos with genetic specimens. Langstrom made sure to remember those dates. I should too. A phone number, but that's not a
Eles saem
Gotham
novos
area
jogos
code.
da
Could be useful.
Plus Essential. Sai não, anuncia, né? Sai semana que vem.
Perfect. Time to see what Langstrom was so desperate to hide.
Pelo boato do francês lá, é jogo de corrida do jogo indie.
Langstrom, what on earth were you up to? That man's dead professor had some serious skeletons in his closet. Langstrom's workstation. I should take a closer look. Well, hello there. A hard drive. I need to get this back to Belfry. Then I can figure out your secrets, Langstrom. Hey, on my way back. The cops overlooked a ton of evidence. Weird marks on the walls, and apparently Langstrom had a secret lab. Hopefully this hard drive I found will have more answers.
Great! Can't wait to get my hands on it.
Parou.
Great!
Travando, ai meu Deus. O vídeo.
Oh crap! It's that girl! What's she doing here?
Ou o golpe igual do Homem-Aranha, seguro pra dar um golpe forte. Esquiva com uma bolinha.
The freaks are here?
With Batman missing, gangs have become more aggressive. It was only a matter of time before the freaks showed up.
Gotham needs to see that someone still cares. I'll take care of this.
I can't focus on torching this place with all that racket! Turn off the damn fire alarm up there!
Golpe de finalização.
I need to handle these guys before this gets any worse.
Ou Y. Ou algum botão do PC. Que vai ser um mouse, sei lá. Eu adquiri o jogo no PC também. Adquiri em todas as plataformas.
You deserve a break. Quietly.
The average temperature of something lights on fire is between 424 and 475 Fahrenheit.
here! I'm a professor of setting stuff on fire!
I can probably stay out of
O
sight
modo de
here.
ir pra baixo vai ser pra cima. Igual no Gotham, Arkham Knight.
Getting to you, buddy?
Smashy, smashy, smash, smash! Smashy!
Sweet dreams.
Alô?
You
Ai,
burn
bate
now,
no som.
grass. No one will mow you ever again.
Alô, alô? Travou.
What are they even doing here?
Enjoying the fireworks.
Aí o golpe com o triângulo segurando, apertando. Esse golpe de mão. Esse golpe
Now that's just
de
embarrassing.
contra-ataque. Não sei se ele vai ter para contra-ataque.
This is terrible. It could bring the whole building down. Hostages. I need to hurry.
Can anyone hear me? Help! They won't let us go!
You knew how this was gonna end? You're rude, baddie.
Pelo menos pra minha placa não dá pra mim jogar o Gotham Knight. A 1060, certeza que ele não tá com o braço muito grande. Depois eu vou ver se tem alguma coisa de canto. Dá pra ver agora. Vamos ver se tem.
Freaks, you gotta give more than this. Get it together, freaks. Come at me. I ain't scared.
Agora foi.
Broken. Let's see if you'll break too.
Get to safety. Go.
You're gonna lose those pretty teeth.
tentando fazer duas coisas ao mesmo tempo aqui.
I'm good. Looking forward to kicking back and
Vamos ver
decrypting this
se
hard drive.
não tem não.
Be there soon.
Vou botar aqui no final aqui pra vocês verem de novo. Mais ou menos aqui. Já não travou tanto não. Não tem mesmo a especificação do Gotham Knight. Deve aparecer depois. Vocês verem de novo. Mais ou menos aqui. Aqui tá sem dois sons agora. Eu não travou tanto não. Não tem mesmo a especificação.
Freeze! Don't move! No, stay cool!
Broken. Let's see if you'll break too.
Get to safety. Go!
You're gonna lose those pretty teeth.
Já vai acabar.
Firefighters and paramedics are on the way. Are you hurt?
I'm good. Looking forward to kicking back and decrypting this hard.
Agora vamos botar o de esperar. Vai acabar. Falta 25 minutos. Dá pra ver outro vídeo. Alô? Tentar inverter aqui as coisas. Mas esse trailer eu não mostrei também. Vou tirar o fone. Tentar inverter aqui as coisas. Mas já? Uhum. E que é o moço?
Bem ver. Você vai pra lá não, né?
Vou depois.
Hã?
Vou depois.
Depois como?
Já vou.
Tem que comer, menino, que o gato vai subir na mesa. Não acredito.
Eu vou, pode ir lá esperar. É que eu tenho que pausar aqui. Vou tirar o fone. Mas já? Uhum. E que é o moço?
Bem ver. Você vai pra lá não, né?
Vou depois.
Hã?
Vou depois.
Depois como?
Já vou.
Tem que comer, menino, que o gato vai subir na mesa. Não acredito.
Alô? Curti? Vamos ver se dá tempo pra ver outro. Vai ter que sair.
That's why Jim Gordon never gave up on anything. That's why Gotham City is still here. It's why I'm still here. And I've known for a while now that someday, like him, I'd have to work with you. I've seen plenty of criminals in my career, but nothing could have prepared me for this.
Well, well, if it isn't Brat Girl.
Gotham City is at her weakest. There's blood in the water, and the sharks are circling. They're all making their moves.
Play nice.
But we aren't going to give up.
A storm has risen over Gotham. Nothing can stop it. See you at the premiere.
I need your help. Your skills. Your knowledge. Your adaptability.
Lights.
You got my back?
Oh, boys!
This biopic is based on a true story. My story. Soon, the world will feel the cold as I do.
I got one last little surprise for you.
Come to watch the show, Red Hood.
Nah, I'm just here to kick your ass.
Mas não. Vamos ver a live. Gosto night. 5 minutos. Sai sim. Qual é o nome do... Harlle Quinn. Vilões.
Jim Gordon never gave up on anything. That's why Gotham City is still here. It's why I'm still here. And I've known for a while now that someday, like him, I'd have to work with you. I've seen plenty of criminals in my career, but nothing could have prepared me for this.
Well, well, if it isn't Bratgirl.
Gotham City is at her weakest. There's blood in the water, and the sharks are circling. They're all making their move.
Play nice.
But we aren't going to give up.
A storm has risen over Gotham. Nothing can stop it. See you at the premiere.
I need your help. Your skills. Your knowledge. Your adaptability. You got my back?
Oh, boys!
This biopic is based on a true story. My story. Soon, the world will feel the cold as I do.
I got one last little surprise for you.
Come to watch the show, Red Hood.
Nah, I'm just here to kick your ass.
E aí, gostou do vídeo? Então se inscreva no Warner Play clicando aqui.
60 segundos. estreia começa em breve. Minutos de transmissão.
Whey concentrado, Growth. O suplemento favorito.
To watch the show, Red Hood?
Nah, I'm just here to kick your ass.
As part of our visit to Warner Bros. Games Montreal, we got to see a lot of Gotham Knights being played, but we weren't able to go hands-on with the game ourselves, and that makes a traditional preview a little difficult. Without having had a controller in our hands, it's hard to say how combat, working through missions, or making gear choices feels. And with that in mind, this preview will be a little more structural. With the help of the game's developers, we'll walk you through how Gotham Knights is put together, revealing brand new information about the open world, how supervillains fold into the fabric of the wider game, the game's neat approach to a day-night cycle, and more. As we've spoken about previously this month, Gotham Knights' world is aiming to feel like a real city, with centuries of history behind it. Part and parcel with that is how truly open it is. The developers ensured that almost the entirety of their Gotham is open from the very beginning, with each of its 5 boroughs offering different traversal opportunities, different threats, different activities, and different characters. But the team also wanted to create the sense of a city reacting to the presence of new vigilantes hitting the streets.
I would say we start off the game in a pretty cold version of Gotham. The police don't like you. The citizens don't like you. And over time, the tone evolves because you identify major threats to the city. You can find out to a certain extent what's going on beneath the surface in Gotham, and you gradually build the confidence of the citizens.
Of course, some will always be on your side, and a group of citizens called the Watch act as an informant network for the Knights, offering up missions that will help stitch their parts of the city back together, all of which will see you head out into the darkness to help bring some light back to Gotham. As it turns out, Dark Knights in training like to come out during, well, dark nights. Key to Gotham Knights is that it's not a game with a shifting, continuous day-night cycle. Rather, the entire game is set over consecutive nights, with new crimes emerging every evening and villain storylines progressing alongside your work to stop them. The only time you'll see daylight in the main game is inside the Knights' headquarters, the Belfry, where you'll plan for what to do after the next sunset.
The central loop of the game experience in Gotham Knights is what we call our Belfry loop. When you exit the Belfry, it's always nighttime. You don't have to worry about when the sun's going to come up. But in the course of that night, there are going to be some crimes and other activities that are happening in the streets of Gotham that are premeditated. They were predetermined by whoever was going to commit them, the day before. When you complete a night of crime fighting, and it's up to the player to decide when they're done, but like it could be a case of them saying, well, I think I've hit most of the major crimes I needed to, or it could be the case of them saying, I learned what I needed to learn and now I need to go back to the Belfry to advance the story, for example. Then you return to Belfry and now it's daytime.
Crimes in Gotham Knights come in many forms. They can range from procedurally generated muggings right up to entire gangs running complex operations. And the more you foil, the more you'll learn about crimes to come.
We wanted this concept of information scarcity. So you need to find stuff out about the city night after night.
You already have a kind of activity queue that you can be tracking and deciding, okay, I think that's going to be more important for me to take on. Maybe this is more interesting to me because it maps better to one of the challenges that I'm trying to complete. Or maybe this has direct impact on me finding that next chapter in the larger mystery, right? So there's a lot of different reasons why a player might choose to go after one particular crime or another.
Unlike the game's checkpointed story missions, if you fail a crime, there's no opportunity to replay that exact situation again. It's all part of the superhero learning process. Once you end a night, crimes are reset.
That night is over. The crimes that you didn't solve continued unabated, and now you're in a situation where you can look at what's coming up for the next night. So maybe you've collected enough clues that you're going to know in advance. Oh, there's going to be a heist at the bank, or there's going to be an armored car robbery, or someone's going to try to break somebody out of prison. In addition to that, there's a bunch of things you don't know about, right? There's all of the other crimes that haven't been revealed, and you can find out about them through patrolling.
It's a system designed to keep offering new ideas without feeling inauthentic to how a real city might work. But of course, in a comic book city, not all crimes are created equal. Sometimes in your nightly patrols, you'll stumble across information that points to a much bigger, more recognizable threat.
Did you miss me?
We were shown precisely nothing of the game's main story campaign after its tutorial. The team clearly wants to keep its take on the beloved Court of Owls storyline as clandestine as the group itself, but the game's villain storylines aren't necessarily a part of that darker conspiracy. Like any good comic book world, multiple supervillains are running riot across Gotham simultaneously, each with their own agendas. In Gotham Knights, that means that supervillain arcs are optional side stories taking place over multiple nights and made part of the open world itself, not just story dungeons. As you learn more about the villains taking on specific missions along the way, your Belfry evidence board will begin to grow, connecting clues to evidence and eventually letting you trigger what the team calls a villain night.
When we talk about villain nights, we sometimes refer to them as epic villain crime, and it's because we always wanted the villains to be menacing Gotham City. We didn't want it to be a case of, oh, I'm going to go into this sort of bubble dungeon universe and Gotham's somewhere else, and I'm just engaging with them here. And sometimes that means we do some fundamentally big changes, right? We encase Elliott Center in ice. In the case of, one of the later missions in the Harlle Quinn arc, Gotham City Hospital is going to be, invaded and is going to be thrown into chaos.
While it's very possible that these optional arcs could illuminate the main storyline somehow, the impression we got is that these standalone villains are there to enrich the sense of Gotham as a true comic book city with multiple threats to stave off at one time. And that applies to the town's gangs as well. As we've talked about before, Gotham Knights factions aren't just goons for a supervillain, although they certainly can be. Instead, they populate the city themselves, causing various flavors of mayhem depending on their affiliation. So far, we've seen the Freaks and the Regulators, and some of our footage has made mention of Red Hood's hatred for the mob.
Hey look, more scumbag looking for a beat.
This feeling of criminal elements spreading across the city is intended to get across the endlessness of the superhero's job. You're not able to wipe out a faction from the map, you're simply stymieing their work.
You can clean Gotham of crime for a night, but you can never stop it. Even Batman wasn't capable of that, and neither are you.
Practically, that means there will always be crimes to fight and combat to be had, but factions also provide another service. Each one is tied to specific gear, crafting materials, and other unlocks, which you'll use to beef up your heroes. We've covered Gotham Knights' many superhero suits previously, but that was very much from the cosmetic angle. From a more gameplay-driven angle, players will be able to craft gear that alters their hero's armor, melee, and ranged items, offering stat boosts and elemental damage changes. Crafting that gear comes down to two things, having the blueprint and the materials to make it.
All of the gear is created through crafting. There are flavors of gear, and it applies in slightly different ways to suits and melee weapons and ranged weapons, but what they kind of have in common is this focus on these elemental damage types: cryogenic, freezing damage, thermal damage, electrical damage, poison, stun, these kinds of things.
And those interactions should become doubly interesting by introducing another player into the world. From day one, the Gotham Knights team has made clear that its take on two-player co-op is completely untethered, meaning one player can theoretically explore another's world without ever having to meet them.
Anytime you're playing in Gotham City as opposed to inside a story dungeon as part of one of the beats of the main mystery of the storyline, you're untethered. It also provides the most organic kind of superhero meetup opportunity where you think your buddy is with you and then he disappears for a while because he got distracted by something and you found a collectible. And then a second later you look up on a rooftop and a Batarang comes out of nowhere and here's Batgirl and she's here to help you stop a crime.
Of course, this could throw up issues of how progression works for players and how players at different parts of the story can interact. The solution is elegantly unfussy. Characters of different levels will scale so that they somewhat match, enemies will also scale to the player's levels, and most importantly, progression matters to the host and the guest.
When you're in Gotham, the host is their story, but 100% of your hero progression is your own. And then once you return to your own Gotham, time essentially restarts in your own story. If you completed a major story beat, a villain arc, dungeon against the Court of Owls while playing with a friend, when you get to that part in your own story, the game will ask you, do you want to play it again? Or do you want to just kind of say, you did this part in some other universe and we'll just fast forward you through it?
But despite watching hours of the game being played live, there was a lot we weren't allowed to see. The game's main story missions are still a mystery to us, even down to how they're unlocked or displayed on the map. More intriguingly, the team repeatedly made reference to an endgame for Gotham Knights, but steadfastly refused to talk about it. Given the game's action RPG structure, it wouldn't be hugely surprising to find that it included an MMO-style raid of some kind, or, with a focus on the open world as an evolving space, if Gotham itself was materially transformed by the effects of the Court of Owls. We just don't know right now. But the biggest outlier for us is in how the game feels to play for an extended period of time. Combat certainly looks interesting, perhaps a tad heavier than the Arkham series it will be compared to, and with a much bigger focus on using special abilities you've earned along the way. Getting around the city, whether by parkour, grappling hook, bike, fast travel paradrops, or the hero's unlockable abilities, feels like a genuinely fun first affair as well. But Gotham Knights will live and die on how these things string together, and how those smaller moments make its larger structure, those nights of patrols, crime fighting, and clue gathering, feel as compulsive as the team hopes for. There's no doubting the enthusiasm and belief at the studio, but this game will be made by how it feels once it's finally allowed to be in our hands. This marks the end of our month of IGN First content, but if you want to go all the way back to the start, we've got 16 minutes of the opening gameplay from the game. We've also got a big feature on how the team made a brand new version of Gotham City.